The National Desk, America's News, now.
The president will not tolerate attacks on American troops, and neither will I. This is a dangerous moment in the Middle East.
Tonight, tensions escalating. What we're learning about when and how the U.S. plans to respond to a deadly attack on U.S. service members in the Middle East. A mother of a mass murderer testifies in her own defense what Jennifer Crumbley says about claims she ignored her son's cries for help. Then big tech CEOs came before Congress, took their verbal punishment, and went home. Where does that leave the parents of dead children who fell prey to the harms of social media? Tonight, new details in the anticipated response by the U.S. to the attack that killed 3 U.S. service members in Jordan over the weekend. U.S. officials confirming today planes have been approved for a series of strikes over a number of days against Iranian-backed militias, including against personnel and facilities in Iraq and Syria. And here's what the Defense Department had to say today.
We'll take all necessary actions to defend the United States, our interest, and our people. And we will respond when we choose, where we choose, and how we choose.
Tonight, we are learning the timing of those strikes dependent on weather and visibility as the U.S. looks to safeguard against inadvertently hitting civilians, according to officials who spoke with CBS News. Now, the attack in Jordan, just one of more than 150 different attacks that have happened and have been carried out against U.S. interests in the Middle East by Iranian-backed groups, acting, they say, in support of Palestinians being indiscriminately killed in Gaza. This as U.S. military forces this morning conducted what it called a self-defense strike against Houthi unmanned aerial vehicles and a ground control station in Yemen, all part of efforts to stop Iran-backed Houthi militants from attacking Western and Israeli-linked ships in the Red Sea. Dozens of attacks have been carried out on commercial shipping lanes since Israel's war in Gaza began. And developing right now, 7 hostages who were held hostage today at a U.S.-owned factory in Turkey have just been released. The update coming after at least one gunman armed with explosives held those workers in a U.S.-owned Procter & Gamble factory as part of a protest. Local media saying the gunman who has been detained was seeking to highlight the loss of life in Gaza. Meantime, we are following an unprecedented executive order from a U.S. president. President Biden has signed an order allowing the U.S. to impose new sanctions on Israeli settlers and potentially government leaders there involved with the growing violence against Palestinians seen in the West Bank, which neighbors Gaza. According to the UN Humanitarian Office, there have been nearly 500 Israeli settler attacks against Palestinians since October 7th, killing at least 8 Palestinians while injuring 115 more. About 500,000 Jewish settlers now live in the West Bank on land that Palestinians view as a territory for a future Palestinian state. The Biden administration has also issued sanctions against several Hamas and Houthi officials in recent weeks. While the order doesn't address the situation in Gaza, it marks one of the more significant actions the president has taken to critique Israel in the face of backlash from key parts of his political coalition. Today, the president campaigning in Michigan, home to one of the largest Arab and Muslim communities, with members who have threatened to, quote, abandon Biden over his backing of Israel despite the high civilian death toll and dire humanitarian situation. And developing right now, at least 3 people dead, 9 others hurt after a building collapsed in Boise, Idaho. Police sharing that a steel hangar was under construction when it collapsed yesterday afternoon.
I don't know what caused it, but I can tell you that it was a pretty global collapse that occurred. The main structural members came down. It was fairly catastrophic.
City officials say 5 people are now in critical condition. The investigation into the cause is ongoing. And the New York Police Department announced today that it has arrested 2 more of the 12 suspects believed to be migrants who attacked NYPD officers over this past weekend. That brings a total to 7 arrests, although the first 5 were released without bail. 5 suspects now remain at large. It comes as the debate around the role of cities in caring for growing migrant populations gets more intense. Here's national correspondent Christine Frizzell with more.
Leaders of several American cities say they've reached a breaking point.
We have schools now, teachers who have class sizes that are increasing, students that they don't have the supports to help. We have hospitals that are, patients are in the hallways right now.
The Democratic City Councilor Erin Murphy suggesting when hers and other cities were designated sanctuary cities, they may not have thought through how much support would be needed.
There's a concern that their local resources are going to be depleted. So I think it is shedding light on what it really means to be a sanctuary city.
Similar challenges in New York City, where a tent camp is growing by the day outside of a major shelter there.
No tenemos donde vivir, no hay trabajo ni nada.
This man says we don't have anywhere to live. There's no work, something advocates have slammed.
It's insanity for the U.S. government to welcome people from other countries into the United States and say, come in, but by the way, you can't work. What are they supposed to do?
About making ends meet also loom large for big cities. Chicago's already spent more than $150 million to pay for migrants. Denver, more than $40 million. And New York City reporting spending more than $2 billion already, projecting $12 billion more if things don't change. All, they say, at the expense of their residents. Amira?
And I know a lot of these cities have said they're at their breaking point. So we know how much is being spent. Do we know where that money is coming from, Christine?
Yeah, this is the one thing we hear from mayors and governors in these places. They're begging the federal government to pitch in to help cover the costs. So far, that's not happening in any major way. New York City reportedly will freeze the hiring of police officers, and there will be cuts to their sanitation department and their universal pre-K program. Chicago just announced it will use $79 million in federal COVID relief money to help pay for costs associated with migrants. That's money they're not using to help in other areas of the city. Amira?
Lots of funds being shoveled around there. Christine Frizzell live in D.C. for us. Thank you. Jennifer Crumbley, the mother of the Michigan school shooter Ethan Crumbley, took the stand in her trial for involuntary manslaughter. She testified that despite Ethan's private journal saying otherwise, he never came to her to ask for help with mental health concerns.
There's a couple of times where Ethan had expressed anxiety over taking tests. Anxiety about what he was going to do after high school, whether it was college, military. So he expressed those concerns to me, but not to a level where I felt he needed to go see a psychiatrist or a mental health professional right away, no.
She also shifted blame to her estranged husband, who will be on trial separately in March, and said it was his responsibility to lock up the gun that was used in the shooting. The prosecution says she should be held responsible as she was grossly negligent in buying the gun and failing to properly care for her son despite the warning signs. 10 Republican state senators in Oregon have been banned by the state Supreme Court from running for re-election. The senators participated in a record-long 6-week walkout last year to stall bills on abortion, transgender health, and gun rights. Oregon voters approved a state constitutional measure in 2022 that would bar any lawmaker from re-election if they have more than 10 unexcused absences. Classes are canceled for the 10th day in a row for public school students in Newton, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. Teachers are on strike over issues like cost of living adjustments after over a year of failed negotiations. Their union has racked up $575,000 in fines because of this strike. The school district will have to make up those lost days by June 30th. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says he made a mistake speaking publicly for the first time since his secret cancer diagnosis and hospitalization was revealed.
Be crystal clear. We did not handle this right, and I did not handle this right. I should have told the president about my cancer diagnosis. I should have also told my team and the American public.
According to Austin, there were no gaps in authorities and no risk to the department's command and control. He says he kept it private because he didn't want to burden President Biden and others with it. He's apologized to Biden directly and supports the ongoing internal review. Coming up, parents demanding change from social media platforms are back on Capitol Hill. Why they may be close to a victory for child safety. And a new poll shows how Americans feel about the economy right now and whether things are trending in the right direction. We will explain. Plus, how a tool at a Florida medical center is helping save lives using AI. We are back right after this. Well, California is just getting swamped right now with two powerful back-to-back storms. The first one now causing dangerous flooding in the south. Flood watches in effect for the Bay Area, Central Coast, and San Diego County. The Central Coast could get waves as high as 18 feet today and tomorrow. An even stronger storm forecast for Sunday. New numbers show former President Trump racked up more than $50 million in legal fees last year. And according to federal election filings, his leadership PAC, Save America, once boasted $100 million, but now has just around $5 million. Both Save America and the Make America Great Again PAC were used to pay legal expenses. The gender gap between Trump and Biden supporters is widening, according to a new Quinnipiac poll. More women say they'd support the current president over Trump, 58% versus 36%. Last month, only 53% of women were for Biden, while 41% were for Trump. Men favored Trump by 11 points. Overall, Biden leads Trump 50-44. And the FCC wants to make an AI-generated robocall illegal. This follows recent reports of robocalls using an AI voice matching President Biden during the New Hampshire primary last week. The agency says these types of calls can spread misinformation by imitating familiar voices. According to YouMail, the number of robocalls peaked in 2019 at around 58 billion. Governor Ron DeSantis announced he is joining at least 13 other governors who have already sent or will be sending National Guard members to Texas to assist in dealing with the influx of migrants at the southern border. 1,000 troops will be used, quote, based on Texas's needs. While on Capitol Hill, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said a bipartisan agreement on a new border security package has been reached again. He expects text language to be released by Sunday at the latest. A vote on the floor could be as early as next Wednesday. After top social media CEOs appeared on Capitol Hill for a tense hearing about child safety, a group of parents calling for platform regulations are back in the halls of Congress. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar with more.
Honestly,
Naveen Radwan, a mom of 3 from California, knows she may not be the most powerful person to come to Capitol Hill, but that's not stopping her from making sure Congress hears what she has to say.
I've kind of found my purpose in life.
You're a mom on a mission.
Yes, exactly.
That mission makes social media safer for kids. It wasn't for her daughter Miriam. Just 15 years old in 2020 when the pandemic started. A varsity athlete, Miriam was looking for ways to stay in shape during lockdown.
And all of a sudden she started being bombarded with things like what I eat in a day videos, which are like videos of how to stay under 500 calories. And we later found out that she was like running like 23 miles with no food.
Social media algorithms, Radwan says, pushed content on her daughter's feed that helped trigger an eating disorder that left her hospitalized.
There were times where I was certain she wasn't going to make it.
But Miriam did make it. Radwan knew she was one of the lucky ones when she sat in a Senate committee room Wednesday watching the CEOs of Meta, X, TikTok, Snap, and Discord. A lot of the parents with her weren't so lucky and lost their kids, many to suicide. The CEOs defending their company's practices.
We do not have a line of business dedicated to children.
They displayed willingness to get behind new safety laws that would block harmful content or give parents more control of their kids' usage.
I'm so sorry that we have not been able to prevent these tragedies.
These parents say blame for inaction stretches to Washington, too. Last year, the Senate Judiciary Committee unanimously advanced 5 online child safety bills, but they never got votes in the full Senate.
To get this done, you have to have a bipartisan measure and an agreement on time and amendments. That's not easy in a Senate that is designed to stop and kill legislation right and left.
Some senators now say this feels like a turning point, that they could actually get something done to protect kids, maybe even collaborate with CEOs to do it. Parents hope that's true, but they're still waiting. On Capitol Hill, I'm Atra Al-Najjar for the National Desk, America's News Now.
Atra, thank you. And one day after the Fed decided to keep interest rates steady, we are learning more Americans are applying for unemployment benefits. Applications rose to 224,000 last week, a small increase of 9,000 over the previous week, according to the Labor Department. Still, layoffs remain at historically low numbers. And Americans are feeling slightly better about the economy so far this year. According to a new Associated Press poll, 35% of adults said they think the economy is currently good. That's up from 30% from late last year and 11 points higher than just 24% a year ago, while 65% still describe the state of the economy as poor. There will be no criminal charges filed for the sexually explicit video taped inside a Senate hearing room late last year. The U.S. Capitol Police determined there was no evidence of a crime, as the then Senate staffer in the sexually explicit video had access to the room in question. The staffer in question is no longer working on Capitol Hill. The Biden administration is kicking off Medicare drug price negotiations today. Officials sent initial offers to the makers of the first 10 prescription drugs selected for the program. It's likely the administration is taking an aggressive approach to see how much drug makers are willing to lower prices. Changes won't take effect until 2026, given they survive legal challenges. Russian-American journalist Alsu Kurmasheva now has to spend 2 more months in a Russian jail while awaiting a trial. Kurmasheva was arrested in October and charged with failing to register as a foreign agent while gathering Russian military information. Her employer, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, called the situation deplorable and unjust. Elon Musk has said he will ask Tesla shareholders to vote on moving the state of incorporation for Tesla out of Delaware to Texas. This comes just days after a Delaware judge denied a $56 billion payment for Musk, as it was financially unfair to shareholders. Critics of the proposed move say changing Tesla's official home state could open the company to further lawsuits by investors. At least 561 deaths are connected to recalled Philips CPAP machines and BiPAP sleep therapy devices. And the FDA says it has gotten more than 116,000 reports since April of 2021 of foam breaking down. The machines were recalled over reports of gas and foam pieces getting into people's airways. Philips agreed to stop selling them in the U.S. in a recent settlement. The FDA, meantime, is also warning about copycat eye drops that could cause infections. South Moon, Rebright, and Fiv Go eye drops look similar to Bausch & Lomb's Lumify drops for redness relief. The FDA found a dangerous type of bacteria in the South Moon drops. The agency says to only buy from reputable retailers. New technology now in use in liver transplant surgery is saving lives. And medical reporter Liz Bonus shares how it helps with everything from logistics to improving outcomes.
You connect the liver to the perfusion device, the artery and the vein, and you perfuse it while you're waiting.
As this video provided by Ohio's UC Health shows, this allows for the donated liver then to be in just the right conditions with medications to help regulate it.
We try to pump it for a minimum of 3 hours before we take it out and put it into the body, but sometimes it's been pumped up to 10, 11 hours.
The machine is portable, which means it can allow for everything from flight time to bring in an organ from another location to other logistics needed to coordinate a liver transplant. Dr. Shimel Shah, the director of the solid organ transplant program here, told me it's one of the reasons his liver transplant program has had incredible growth this past year.
We went up 25% from just the previous year, so that's remarkable growth.
Dr. Shah says the most common conditions that lead to the need for a liver transplant are hepatitis and fatty or alcoholic liver disease.
But more and more what's rising lately has been cancer, and we're transplanting more and more different cancers of the liver or cancers that have spread to the liver.
While machine perfusion has been used for other types of organ transplants such as kidney and heart, liver use can really change patient outcomes.
The last 2 years, we had the highest transplant rate in the United States. Our median waiting time for a liver right now is 15 days. Nationally, it's close to a year.
Of course, this team reminds us that none of this would be possible without those who choose to become organ donors. You can sign up to do that online, and be sure to tell your family your wishes. With your health news, I'm Liz Bonus reporting.
All right, Liz, thank you. And coming up, an Ohio man had people fooled when he impersonated a cop. What happened when the real officers found out? We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter to you. We are taking the pulse of America.
I waved them down. He was going to kill everybody on the road.
Investigators say this body cam video clear evidence of a fake cop at work on the job he wasn't hired for.
Well, I'm off duty right now. Right.
Westerville police say Brendan Conklin used this unmarked car to pull over a vehicle on South Cleveland Avenue. They believe it's not the first time he's done it.
This is the first that we're aware of. Now, we've already started our investigation. We do believe that there are other incidents that this person has been involved in.
Lieutenant Justin Alloway says Conklin claimed he was an off-duty officer, even flagging down real officers during this January 21st traffic stop. Inside the car, a police radio, dash cam, partition separating the front of the vehicle from the back, and a mounted shotgun. Conklin charged with, among other things, impersonating an officer. More charges could come.
Delray Medical Center's Dr. Joseph Ricotta says an AI program called VisVascular is significantly improving patient care by saving time that could be a matter of life and death.
I can do everything on my phone in probably 60 seconds. I can look at the patient's CAT scan, figure out whether they need treatment, call the team, get the OR ready, click 2-3 buttons, and it's done.
The program analyzes a patient's CAT scan, looking for abnormalities like embolisms or aneurysms.
People can be walking around with a ticking time bomb that they don't know about, and their aneurysm could burst any time.
According to Dr. Ricotta, this program is not just changing the medical landscape, it's radically transforming it.
7 confirmed freeway shootings in just 4 weeks, a staggering number WSP trooper Rick Johnson says is becoming all too common on King County roadways.
The victim was in an Acura, I'm not sure what color, and the suspect was in a white Dodge Charger.
Johnson says the victim drove around a semi-truck, changed lanes, and then the suspect pulled up beside him and fired 3 rounds.
We want people to feel safe on the freeway, so the best thing we say is stay alert. And anything you see, whether you think it has to do with the shooting or not, that looks unsafe, call us.
Coming up, a rare piece of artwork by all 4 members of the Beatles just sold. Exactly how much on the other side? A rare painting by the Beatles has just sold for over $1,744,000. The Beatles created the piece called Images of a Woman in the summer of 1966 during a tour in Japan. Some experts think it's the only artwork made by all 4 members together. It was sold today at Christie's Auction House in New York. And that does it for this edition of the National Desk. Thank you so much for joining us.